What if I told you that one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century had a vision that could have transformed the Middle East forever? A secret dream, hidden in plain sight, that challenged politics, religion, and even the way we see each other as human beings. Martin Buber wasn't just a philosopher. He believed in something radical, something dangerous for his time, that Jews and Arabs could live together, not just in peace, but in genuine partnership. But why? Was this vision forgotten? Who silenced it? And what does this mean for us today as the world watches the Middle East with anxious eyes? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you understand the conflict and the hope. What do you think? Could Martin Buber's vision still be possible today? Or was it always just a dream? Let's talk in the comments. I'm reading all of them. Have you ever heard of Martin Buber? He was more than a philosopher. He was a man who dared to believe in the power of true encounters between human beings. In a world torn apart by wars, religious and political divisions, Buber stood up with a vision that still calls for attention today. Born in 1878 in Vienna into a Jewish family, Martin Buber was a deeply spiritual thinker. From a young age, he immersed himself in the traditions of Jewish mysticism, especially the rich wisdom of the Hasidim, a Jewish spiritual movement that values intimacy with God, joy, and divine presence in everyday life. But Buber did not settle for studying ancient traditions. He wanted to connect faith to real life, to the modern world, to human relationships. And that's where his best-known philosophy was born: I and thou. Buber believed there are two types of relationships. The I-it relationship, where we treat the other as an object, as something to use or analyze. And the I-thou relationship, where we truly open ourselves to the other, recognizing their dignity, their unique essence, seeing them not as a number or function but as a being with a soul. This vision is more than philosophy. It is a call to restore the world through sincere and loving relationships with others. And for Buber, this included the relationship with God. For him, God reveals himself in true encounters. Now we ask you, have you ever had an encounter that transformed your life? Write in the comments, I believe God speaks through encounters. Or say, I choose to see the other as a thou, not as an it. Few people know, but Martin Buber did not shy away from political debates. He was one of the few Jewish thinkers who, even before the founding of the State of Israel, proposed a path for coexistence between Jews and Arabs. While many called for separation and confrontation, Buber advocated for a binational state where two cultures could live with dignity, side by side. He knew that without dialogue, without the I-thou attitude, peace would never be possible. His voice was often ignored. But today, when we look at the suffering in Israel and Palestine, the wars, the walls, the cries, his words sound like a forgotten prophecy. Martin Buber offers more than a theory. He offers a path, a spiritual, human, and political path toward a world where the other is not an enemy, but a thou, a brother. And this message invites us today to see the other through the eyes of faith, to build bridges where there are walls, to believe that God's presence is revealed when two souls truly meet. Buber's hidden dream. A prophecy. The world ignored? Few know the most spiritual side of Zionist thought. Amid wars, territorial disputes, and political interests, a prophetic, different, and bold voice emerged. A voice calling for peace, dialogue, and faith. Martin Buber. Buber didn't just dream of a state for the Jews. He dreamed of a shared land where Jews and Arabs, children of Abraham, could live side by side, in mutual respect, under the light of a divine purpose. They called this vision spiritual Zionism, a proposal that sought not only political independence but a moral, ethical, and deeply spiritual alliance. A kind of return to Zion that transcended flags and armies. For Buber, true Zionism was the one that reconciled, not divided. Before the founding of the State of Israel, Buber defended a binational plan, Jews and Arabs sharing the same territory, with equal rights and a government based on dialogue. He wrote a direct letter to David Ben-Gurion, Zionist leader and future first Prime Minister of Israel, warning that conquest without reconciliation would bring lasting pain. But his voice was ignored. "If we choose the path of force, we will lose our soul," he wrote. And in a way, his warning still echoes across the borders of a holy land that still bleeds today. Buber tried to reach out to Arab and Muslim leaders. He believed faith in the one God could unite those who today face each other as enemies. But his dream was suffocated by the noise of weapons, political haste, and mutual distrust. Did we lose a divine chance to build something greater? Was Buber's proposal a prophetic vision for our times? Is there still time to rescue this dream? Not by our own efforts, but by faith in God. If you believe God can transform enemies into brothers, write in the comments, "I believe in the power of reconciliation." If you still dream of peace over Jerusalem and the entire Holy Land, declare with faith in the comments, "May God's peace reign over Israel and the Arabs." And if you believe the true kingdom of God goes beyond borders and flags, write, "The kingdom of God is among us." This video is not just history, it is a spiritual call to reflect. What does it mean today to be children of the promise? How to live faith in a divided world? And what can we learn from men who tried to follow God's voice even against the current? Comment, share, pray. Let's awaken this hidden dream together. What if Martin Buber's vision had been heard? Imagine, for a moment, a Middle East where Jews and Arabs were not enemies but brothers, where Jerusalem was not the center of so many wars, but the heart of a sacred coexistence, where the land was not divided by walls, but united by bridges of faith and mutual respect. This was Martin Buber's vision, a Jewish philosopher, mystic, and man of dialogue. Amid the chaos of colonial promises and the pain of the diaspora, Buber dared to propose something revolutionary: coexistence between two peoples on the same land, with equal rights, mutual respect, and shared responsibility. But what stopped this plan? The truth is harsh. Colonial interests, international pressures, fanaticism on both sides, and a growing culture of fear and revenge buried hope before it could even bloom. Buber was rejected by many within his own people, labeled naive, too idealistic. And on the other side, Arab nationalists saw him as part of a Zionist project not to be trusted. The result? Silence, contempt, and more pain. And here is the question that haunts us to this day. What if they had listened to Buber? Could we have avoided decades of bloodshed? Would we have seen a different Middle East? This is a counterfactual reflection. Yes, but it is also a call to faith. Because even in the face of lost chances, God can still write a new story. There is still time for reconciliation. There is still room for peace. If there are hearts willing to listen as Buber listened, prophetic and spiritual messages. Martin Buber, the modern prophet in the midst of chaos in times of war, division, and pain. When nations clash and hearts harden, an essential question arises. Where is the voice of wisdom? Where is the spiritual flame that can still ignite hope among humanity's ruins? Martin Buber, Jewish philosopher, deep thinker, man of faith, rises as a modern prophet, not with shouts, but with a silent and transformative call. The value of encounter, the wisdom of I and thou. In the chaos of the world, Buber believed the root of human conflict is separation, dehumanization, the way we stop seeing the other as a sacred thou, and begin to see them as an it, an enemy, an object. But in the midst of chaos, he calls us back to the spiritual core of existence, the living relationship between people, between man and God, between souls that recognize each other. The world may explode in external battles, but the deepest war always begins in the heart. The prophecy of encounter. For Buber, the solution to conflict was not merely political, it was spiritual. While leaders fight over territories, the real ground to conquer is that of mutual recognition, listening, openness. True peace is not the absence of war, but the presence of the thou, the other whom I recognize as a child of the same, God. In his vision, God dwells in the space between two human beings who truly meet. Where there is authentic encounter, there God is present. This is a prophetic message for our days. Lessons for humanity today. We see the world splitting into ideologies, races, religions, walls, and hatred. But Buber reminds us, the world will only be restored when each of us returns to seeing the other with sacred eyes. When instead of saying they are wrong, we ask, how can I listen with my heart? When instead of shouting, we decide to meet. Do you want change? Do you want peace? Then start with the spiritual courage to see God in the other, even in the one who has hurt you. This is the prophetic path Buber traced. A path Jesus also taught. Love your neighbor even if they think differently. Reconciliation begins with a look. Peace begins with a thou. Share your faith. If this message spoke to your heart, write a statement of faith in the comments. Write, I choose the path of encounter, not conflict. I believe God is present where there is love and truth. Even in times of war, my faith is in reconciliation. I and thou. This is how we build a new world with God at the center. Let's fill the comments with words of light, faith, and hope. You are part of this prophecy. You are called to be a bridge, not a wall. And if you believe this, write your faith affirmation now. Let's rekindle the light together. Tensions between faith, politics, and war. Buber versus the founders of Israel. In a time marked by wars, forced displacements, and the rebirth of a nation, one man dared to dream differently. While leaders, like David Ben-Gurion and Chaim Weizmann, fought for an armed political and sovereign Jewish state, Martin Buber saw something deeper, bolder, and harder. He dreamed of a spiritual state, a home for the Jews, yes, but a home built on justice, compassion, listening, and encounter. A state not only Jewish, but truly ethical, where the other was not the enemy, but the neighbor. Martin Buber believed Israel's true strength would not come from weapons but from the spirit. Not domination but dialogue. Not exclusion, but the I and thou, his mystical and philosophical vision of relationship with the other and with God. But this vision clashed head-on with the founders of the modern state. Ben-Gurion wanted security. Buber spoke of conscience. Weizmann sought political recognition. Buber called for reconciliation, religion or nationalism. This was the big question that divided 20th century Jews. A question that, in many ways, still divides the world today. Is it possible to unite deep faith with political responsibility? Can we still dream of a world where spirituality transforms reality and does not flee from it? Martin Buber did not want a theocratic state, nor a purely secular state. He wanted something rarer, a moral state. A people who live not only for themselves, but as a light to the nations. Now it's your turn. Comment below. Do you believe faith can transform politics? Do you also dream of a fairer world where love for the neighbor is stronger than fear? Write in the comments a faith phrase that inspires you. Example, justice will come when love is greater than power. Or, I believe in a God who makes peace the greatest miracle. Use your voice. Share your faith. Together, we can rekindle this hope. If this video touched you, like, share, and subscribe. Because the world still needs prophets like Buber. And maybe, the next one is you. Today, while sirens still echo across the skies of the Middle East and the whole world watches with fear at endless conflicts, some silent voices continue to shine like forgotten beacons. One of them is Martin Buber's, the thinker who believed that peace is only possible when we see the other as a brother, not an enemy. But who still listens to this voice? It still resonates in university halls, in the writings of theologians, philosophers, and spiritual leaders. It survives in peace movements that, even threatened, keep marching with hope. It lives in Jewish, Christian, and Muslim scholars who dare to dream of a holy land not divided by blood, but united by purpose. Rediscovering Martin Buber in times of war is more than an academic act. It is an act of courage. It is resisting dehumanization. It is choosing dialogue when the world screams at us to hate. It is remembering that the promised land was not promised to violence but to justice. Buber offers us a spiritual alternative for the Middle East, a vision where God is present in the sincere encounter between two people, a holy land where the true miracle is recognizing the divine image in the face of the other. And now we ask you with an open heart, is there still time to hear Buber's voice? Can we still build this bridge before everything collapses? Or are we letting slip the last chance to rediscover our humanity? This video is more than a reflection. It is a call to collective consciousness. If you also believe that love is stronger than hate, if you still have faith that peace is possible even amid chaos, write in the comments, I choose reconciliation. There is still hope for humanity. Lord, teach us to be instruments of your peace. Let's spread this message together. Because maybe right now, someone desperately needs to hear that there is still a way. Do not stay silent. Don't just scroll past. Comment, share, declare your faith. Martin Buber's voice remains alive, but only if we keep it echoing. The Middle East. Before the founding of Israel, a land of diversity and conflict, before the founding of the State of Israel in 1948, the Middle East was a deeply diverse land where Jews, Muslims, and Christians lived together, not always peacefully, but sharing a millennia-old history, religious beliefs, and cultural traditions. This region, cradle of the three great monotheistic religions, carried a complex tapestry of intertwined identities and histories, where each people sought survival, rights, and hope for a dignified future. It was in this context that the Zionist movement emerged initially as a response to European anti-Semitism and the growing search for a safe homeland for the Jewish people, who suffered violent persecution and discrimination. But within this movement, there were many currents and views on the path forward. Political Zionism and its internal divisions. Martin Buber's ethical Zionism, while many advocated for the creation of a strong, independent Jewish state marked by rigid nationalism, there were dissenting voices like Martin Buber's who proposed an ethical Zionism. For Buber, the creation of Israel could not come at the cost of injustice against the Palestinian people, nor through confrontation and exclusion. Buber defended peaceful coexistence, intercultural dialogue, and the building of a community based on mutual respect and social justice. He believed that true Zionism should be grounded in love for one's neighbor, solidarity, and the pursuit of a shared future where Jews and Arabs could live side by side with dignity. The influence of European culture on Buber's thought. German philosophy, especially phenomenology and existentialism, deeply influenced Martin Buber's thought. In addition, his connection with Jewish mysticism, particularly the Kabbalistic tradition, brought a spiritual and ethical dimension to his ideas. Buber saw the human encounter as a sacred moment, a true dialogue between I and you, where respect and recognition of the other's otherness are essential for peace and reconciliation. This deeply spiritual and humanistic vision contrasted with dominant political logics that prioritized power, conquest, and division. The role of the British and the silence on peaceful alternatives during the British Mandate in Palestine, 1917-1948, colonial powers had their own strategic and political interests that directly influenced the course of the conflict. Peaceful and conciliatory ideas, such as those proposed by Buber, were often ignored, suppressed, or even actively fought against. Why did this happen? Because imperialism preferred instability and controlled conflict to maintain its influence in the region, while radical and nationalist movements gained strength and support. Thus, the opportunity for real dialogue and peaceful coexistence was lost. An invitation to reflection and faith today. When we look back on this complex and painful past, we can learn much from the words and courage of Martin Buber and other visionaries, who dreamed of a Middle East where justice, respect, and peace would prevail. I want to hear from you watching now. Do you believe it is possible to build bridges between such different peoples, even after so many years of conflict? What is your statement of faith or hope for peace in the Middle East and the world? Do you know anyone who lives or has lived this reality? What message of faith and love did they share with you? Leave your comment below, share your belief, your desire for peace, and your prayer. Together, let's strengthen a chain of faith, hope, and love that can transform the present and the future. To finish, reflect with me. True strength is not in conquest or exclusion, but in the ability to listen to the other, respect their pain, and build together a future of justice and brotherhood. Martin Buber, let your heart speak. Comment your message of faith and inspire others to believe in peace. Martin Buber's dream may have been buried by history, but the questions it raises remain urgent today. Can we find a way to listen to each other again? To build bridges where walls now stand? The secret wasn't just about politics, it was about humanity. And maybe, just maybe, it's not too late to revive that dream. If this story moved you or made you think differently, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Now, I want to hear from you. What part of Martin Buber's vision resonated most with you? And how do you see the future of the Middle East unfolding? Drop your thoughts below. Your voice matters. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.